The air shimmered with heat. Cracks split the earth like scars, and dust hung heavy on every blade of brittle grass. A young lion cub, barely 4 months old, stumbled across the plain. His fur was patchy with dust, faint rosettes still ghosting his golden coat, the markings of youth not yet shed. His ribs pressed against thin skin. His steps faltered with exhaustion. But this was not a cub wandering aimlessly. His eyes bright, wet, restless, searched with fragile determination. Each pause was a question. Where? Each step, an answer. Forward. Somewhere ahead, something called to him. Not with sound, but with need. What could compel a starving cub, alone and vulnerable, to press forward against the killing heat? At last, his search ended. Beneath the shade of a crooked acacia tree lay a shape vast, coiled, unmoving. A python, not the kind the cub could ever challenge. This serpent was a giant, stretching more than 6 meters, thick as a man's torso. Bronze-green scales shimmered like hammered metal, and its golden eyes, cold, unblinking, fixed upon the cub. The cub froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but hunger and fear were not what brought him here. He rose shakily onto his hind legs, paws pressed to his chest, and made a sound almost too soft to hear a plea. The python's coils tightened. Its tail thumped the ground. A hiss broke the still air. Yet still, the cub did not flee. Instead, he cried again, a broken, desperate call, and staggered a few steps forward before turning back. Eyes wide, imploring, "Follow me." And then the impossible happened. The python moved. Across the savanna they traveled. Predator, child, and serpent elder. The cub trotted ahead, stumbling often, glancing back with anxious urgency. Behind him, the python slid forward with sinuous grace, its vast body flowing like liquid bronze over the earth. What bound them together? No human eye could decipher. Was it instinct, accident, or something deeper, unspoken between creatures that share the same harsh world? Their journey carried them to a shallow gully where water trickled weakly, a fading vein of life. The mud sucked at the ground, carrying the bitter scent of decay. And there, half submerged, lay the source of the cub's desperation. An antelope calf, scarcely older than the cub himself, lay trapped in misery. Its thin body quivered with exhaustion, sides heaving with shallow breath. A heavy log, lodged in mud, pressed cruelly across its hind leg, pinning it down. Blood streaked the muck where it had struggled in vain. Its eyes rolled with fear, white showing all around the dark iris. Each trembling kick only ground the leg deeper into pain. The cub rushed forward at once. He pressed his small body against the calf's neck, licking its face with desperate urgency, as if his tiny presence alone might steady it. But he was too weak to lift the log, too fragile to save his companion, so he turned again to the python. His gaze, wide and glistening, begged the impossible. The serpent slid closer, its massive coils wrapped around the log, muscles bulging beneath jeweled scales. It tightened. Slowly, painfully, the log shifted. Mud gurgled. The calf let out a strangled cry. With a final heave, the log rolled aside. Splashing into the gully, the calf's leg was free. But freedom was not enough. The antelope collapsed, unable to rise. Blood seeped from the wound, staining the water crimson. Its breath came fast, shallow, fading. The cub whimpered and licked the wound frantically, pawing at the calf's side as if to hold life inside its body. His devotion was fierce, unrelenting, but futile. Above, the sky darkened with wings. Vultures descended in spirals, their shadows sliding across the ground like omens. The python reared high, striking its coils against the earth with thunderous power. The ground shook. The vultures shrieked and scattered, unwilling to test the wrath of a serpent so large. But danger lurked closer than the sky. In the grass beyond the gully, a hyena prowled. Drawn by blood, it slunk low, ears pricked, jaws parted in anticipation. The cub froze, his tiny body trembling with terror. But he did not abandon the calf. He stood before it, a frail shield. The python turned, tongue flicking, head rising like a pillar of living stone. One hiss deep, resonant rolled through the air. The hyena faltered, eyes widening. and then slunk back into the shadows, unwilling to challenge such power. The calf lived. For now, it was the commotion, the cries of the cub, the hiss of the python, the thrash of vultures that drew the attention of humans. 2 wildlife rangers and a veterinarian pushed through the grass, their boots sinking into mud, their rifles slung but unused. They stopped short at the sight before them. A lion cub crouched beside a wounded antelope. A python loomed nearby, coils massive and glistening with mud. And none were fighting. The vet, breath caught in her throat, stepped forward slowly. Her hands trembled not from fear of the snake, but from awe. She had seen predators kill, prey flee, serpents strike, but never this. She knelt beside the calf, cleaning the wound with swift, practiced motions. The calf shivered, but did not resist. The cub refused to move aside, pressing his head stubbornly against its shoulder as though he could anchor it to life. And the python watched, silent and still, as though guarding the fragile circle of trust. Hours later, the antelope's leg was bound in fresh bandages. The rangers prepared to lift it onto a straw-lined truck bed for transport to the rescue station. The cub panicked. He scrambled desperately to climb after it, crying out in protest when hands blocked his path. "Leave him," one ranger muttered. "He'll only cause trouble." But then, from the truck bed, the calf stirred. Its head lifted weakly, and it gave a soft, trembling call, directed not at the men, but at the cub. The humans froze. The cub answered with a cry of his own, pawing toward the vehicle. For a long moment, silence held. Then, with a heavy sigh, one ranger stepped aside. The cub leapt up at once, curling against the antelope's side, his paw resting protectively across his chest. At the edge of the gully, the python raised its head one last time. Its golden eyes gleamed, reflecting the fading light of the Sunday. It flicked its tongue, then turned silently and vanished into the tall grass, leaving only the memory of what it had done that evening. Under the soft glow of lanterns, the antelope calf lay on clean straw. Its breathing, once ragged, now came steady. Its bandaged leg twitched occasionally, but the bleeding had stopped. Beside it, curled tightly like a shadow, lay the lion cub. For the first time in days, perhaps, he slept. His frail body rose and fell with the rhythm of peace. Rangers watched in silence, struggling to put words to what they had witnessed. A predator's child had chosen loyalty over instinct. A serpent, feared by all, had chosen mercy over hunger. And the prey animal, fragile and terrified, had found protection where none should exist. Out on the savanna, the night stretched vast and eternal. Stars burned cold above, and the cries of nocturnal hunters carried through the grass. Somewhere, unseen, the great python slid silently back into his hidden world, carrying with it a mystery no human could ever fully unravel. What drove it to help? Was it chance? Was it instinct misfired? Or was it something deeper?